All right, welcome to Life Extension Live. I'm your host, Dr. Mike. You know, in today's world, more and more, how do I say it? More and more people are having a complicated relationship with wheat. And we're not going to dive into all what that means. You guys know what I'm talking about. And so more of our audience members are looking for alternatives. And so, guess who I have on with me today? Holli Ryan. She is our registered dietitian. She is kind of our RD host.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's great. So obviously, we're going to talk about alternatives, aren't we?
Yes.
But before we do that, tell us why are some people wanting to avoid wheat? What are some of the issues?
Yes. So wheat, it is one of the top 9 major allergens in the United States. So some people have a wheat allergy or intolerance. Some people have celiac disease. So there are varying different types of intolerances to wheat itself. Also, some people sometimes have some issues with the growing practices of wheat, the chemical residues that the non-organic varieties can contain. So, you know, there are a few different reasons.
Right. So when we talk about these alternatives, and we're going to get to each one of these, are these considered flour? Like what's flour, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we kind of tend to think of flour as something that's synonymous with all-purpose flour, which is from wheat, right? But really, flour can be from grains, seeds, other grains, seeds, different cereals, even nuts. So, you know, it's not strictly a wheat product.
So flour, think of flour more as if you take something like a nut, when you grind it down enough, if you can shape that, mold it, whatever, make a bread out of it, that's flour.
Yeah, the goal is, of course, to mimic kind of the consistency and ideally the palatability and taste of wheat flour because it is very palatable. But yeah, the milling practice, so just grinding it up into that fine consistency.
So like when we do demos like this, what have we've done all kinds now, sugars, milk, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
We always start with the control, right?
Yeah.
So let's move down here to whole grain wheat. This is our control. Go ahead and just give us the basics of this one because we're kind of comparing all of these to this one, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to start with our control, the whole grain wheat, and this is the whole grain variety. So you may have recall our bread show that we did. We focused on the whole grain versus non-whole grain. And the reason why that's important is because it's going to offer us more nutritional value. So the whole grain variety, it's going to have the different portions of the wheat, including the germ and the bran, not just the endosperm. So that's going to offer us a little bit more fiber, a little bit more protein, and other nutrients.
Yeah, it's more natural, right? It's kind of how nature gives it.
Yeah, so less processed, more parts of the plant, more nutrition.
Right. So that's our standard. But now, of course, we're talking about those wheat alternatives because people are looking for them. So let's start with the first one you have here, and I think this is buckwheat. Tell us about that one.
Yeah, that's right. So buckwheat, even though it has wheat in its name, it is actually gluten-free. In fact, aside from wheat, all of the other alternatives we're looking at today are gluten-free. So buckwheat, one of the most popular foods is Japanese soba noodles.
I love those.
Are made with buckwheat. So buckwheat is actually going to be, spoiler, one of the most nutritionally rich options we have here today. And reason being is it has a really nice significant amount of fiber content. So looking at some of the macronutrients here, a quarter cup, and that's what we're going to look at across the board.
That's the standard, quarter cup.
Quarter cup. So in a quarter cup, it's going to have 29 grams of carbs, but 9 grams of those are from fiber.
Yeah, so the net is a lot lower than that.
Yeah, so net carbs would be 20 grams, and then that also offers 4 grams of protein.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are interested in the net carb of things too today, right? Because those are the carbs that impact the insulin, the glucose, and all that kind of that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, so that was another reason, you know, people may be looking for alternatives. They're worried about the impact on blood sugar and cholesterol and weight management. So looking at some of those macronutrient profiles.
Yeah. Bellinis are made with buckwheat sometimes. At least I was told.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah,
I think I've had buckwheat bellinis.
yeah, those little pancakes.
Yeah.
You may have had some caviar on top of those.
Love it.
Those are made with buckwheat as well.
There you go. So I do like buckwheat for sure. Moving on to the next one. Now, I got to tell you, I know coconut is popular. The coconut milk was popular. Coconut flour is popular. I've been disappointed with coconut in these alternative forms.
Yeah.
You know, I did not like that milk, remember?
Yeah, I do recall. Yeah.
I did not like that milk. But tell us a little bit more about coconut as an alternative here.
Yeah, coconut, like you said, it is a very versatile fruit. In vegan dishes, you could use the cream of it to make the dish creamy. It's used in yogurt, coconut oil. We did a sugar show. It's a sugar alternative. But when we're looking at the composition of the flour itself, I was really surprised by this. It actually offers 6 grams of protein per quarter cup. So that was pretty interesting.
And that ranks pretty good, right, across the board?
Yeah, that is actually on the higher end in terms of protein content. So it does have 2 grams of saturated fat. Looking at the carb breakdown a little bit further, so 18 grams of carbs total, and then 10 grams of fiber.
Oh, so that's net 8.
And then, so this is the other thing, though. 6 are sugar, and that's naturally occurring sugar. They're not adding sugar to it, but the naturally occurring sugar in coconut. So you're getting, the 18, the breakdown, you get 10 grams fiber, 6 grams sugar.
But none added. No, we're not adding sugar to it. It's
sugar.
just the natural from the fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, listen, it was so funny about it is I love coconut. I like roasted coconut, it's that the milk I just didn't like. And I don't think I've ever tried coconut flour. Maybe I should give it a shot.
Yeah, give it a try. If you are baking with it, though, do keep in mind that because of that high fiber content, you're going to often need more liquid, more eggs in some of those recipes to compensate for that high fiber content.
Right. Yeah, as you're baking with it, you kind of you need to know that consistency. If it's a pancake, you want that consistency. So you got to add maybe a little bit more moisture to it or whatever to get it. Yeah.
That's right. And I mean, if looking at the bag here, they have a recipe for vanilla coconut pound cake. So always refer. That does sound pretty good.
Yeah.
Refer to the recipe.
Let's go on to now almond. This is popular. This is probably one of the more popular alternatives. I think it's been almond alternatives. It's been around a long time.
Yeah, especially almond milk. That was like one of the most popular milk alternatives. And the flour is gaining a lot of popularity lately, and for good reason. So it's going to also offer a good amount of protein and fiber, looking at some of those key nutrients. So looking at that breakdown, only 6 grams of carbs total, and 4 grams fiber, 2 grams sugar, not added. Mm-hmm. But that's a really good
that's a good breakdown.
Yeah, that's a good net carb of 2 grams.
Right.
So.
That's pretty good. This is almost in keto land for people.
Yeah, that's
it
true.
also depends on how much you're using, right? We're talking about a quarter cup. Mm-hmm. Some recipes might call for more of it, but so in general though, this is good. Net carb of 2 is really good. And
that's right.
Good protein. One of the things, so we had a question, or it wasn't a question, it was a comment that came in on our social channels at Life Extension, was the comment was almond is great for both savory and sweet recipes. Like some of these maybe a little bit more for sweeter things, others more savory. This one is like maybe in the middle.
Right, so traditionally almond flour has been popular in like French macarons, but use it for breadcrumbs in like a savory dish.
Give it a shot. Okay.
And I don't think I mentioned too, 6 grams of protein per quarter cup.
That's good.
So also on the higher end there.
All right, now moving on then to oat flour. Again, been around forever. Oat bran muffins. Who hasn't had one, right? I think most of us have. Yep. Tell us a little bit about oat here.
Yes. So, oat, it's made from milled whole oats. It's actually a really easy one to make yourself at home. So if you have rolled oats on hand, throw them in a blender, NutriBullet, what have you, and make your own oat flour at home.
Sounds pretty straightforward and easy.
Yeah. So,
Have you done that before?
I have done that before.
That's
yeah.
Cool.
And
it worked out.
And then you could take it a step further and make your own oat milk too.
Wait.
Which is pretty cool.
How do you milk an oat?
Well, you grind it into that powder, you add water essentially, and that's That's pretty much it. We have a recipe on the Life Extension blog.
Takes really small hands. All right. Anyways, anything else? You noted in my notes that the oat. Where are we at? This is the oat, right?
Yeah.
That the oat was a good source of lysine and beta glucans.
Yeah, so lysine, an amino acid that it's important to make sure we're getting enough of, especially if we're on certain dietary patterns like a vegan diet. So notably, it does contain lysine. Beta glucan, great for immune system support, and that's a type of fiber found in oats. Looking at the macronutrient breakdown, 22 grams of fiber, 22 grams of carbohydrates, 3 grams of that is going to be fiber, 4 grams is protein.
Not bad.
So, in terms of the carbohydrates, you're getting up there a little bit because only 3 grams of that is fiber, but not bad.
Right. Okay. So there you go. Classic oat. Moving on then to chickpeas. Love them.
Yeah.
Hummus. That's pretty much how I eat chickpeas.
Falafel.
I don't really eat it. Oh, I like falafels too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mediterranean dishes.
Tell us about it.
Very popular in those. So it's a very nutritious legume, also known as garbanzo bean. And looking at a quarter cup, you're looking at 21 grams of carbohydrate, 5 grams of that is fiber, 1 gram naturally occurring sugar, and then you're going to get 5 grams of protein from that quarter cup.
Right. And again, so just these are the alternatives you could use. You can try almost anything with these, right? Pancakes, bread, whatever. You just give it a try. You may find one alternative is a little bit better for bread versus whatever, but you can explore and experiment with all this, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of different recipes out there, so,
This one has saka flatbread.
Yeah, so that one has a flatbread recipe.
Sounds good. Give it a shot.
Sounds interesting.
I like flatbread. Okay, now we're going to move on then to rice flour. Tell us a little bit about rice flour. I would think this is going to be the high one in sugar.
It is going to be your starchier option. So what we have here is the white rice flour, but you could also step up the nutrient density a little bit if you choose the whole grain, the brown rice variety. You're going to get a little bit more fiber, maybe a little bit more protein, but overall kind of negligible. It's going to be just pretty much very high in starch.
I think then you would probably want to stick with the white rice then, because it seems that that's going to just be a little bit easier to work with maybe than brown. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on the recipe, but looking at the macronutrients, so 32 grams of carbohydrate and only 1 gram of fiber in that, and 3 grams of protein. So overall, looking at protein and fiber, it's on the lower end and primarily carbohydrate. Keeping that in mind if you are looking to keep the carb count down. But I mean, listen, if you do have some type of wheat or gluten intolerance, it becomes a valuable option.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Especially in those blends, the gluten-free flour blends, it's pretty prevalent there.
And if you look at it, when we compare these to the standard down there, or even compare it to the real white flour, right? It looks the most close.
That's true, yeah. So it's gonna give you a very similar look and feel.
Right. Okay. And then now let's move on to this last one here. This is tapioca and cassava. Tell us about this.
Yes. So what we have is the tapioca flour today. But tapioca itself comes from the cassava root vegetable. And cassava, it's also known as yucca. But if you've ever had a boba tea or Brazilian cheese bread, that's going to be made with tapioca. Right.
And then the cassava, that can also be an alternative as a flour too?
Yes. So cassava, I bring it up because it's also a very popular wheat flour alternative. So you may see tapioca, you may see cassava, and they're both from cassava. This one, the tapioca is a little bit more starchy because it's only that starchy root portion of the plant, whereas cassava is including more parts of the plant. So looking at the difference in nutrition, keeping that in mind, cassava flour is going to give you 2 grams of fiber, whereas tapioca, 0 fiber.
Oh, okay.
And also 0 protein in tapioca.
So the tapioca is a little more stripped down.
That's right. But when we're eating, we're not just eating straight flour, right? It's
Right.
always going to be in a dish.
In a recipe with other foods and other macronutrients and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So you also have to keep that in mind. It's not like you're just going to consume that on its own. So like the Brazilian cheese bread, for example, it has cheese in it. We have some.
Do you know what I have here?
We have some here today.
Robson, our producer who's over there, you can't see him, he made some Brazilian cheese bread. 'Cause he is from Brazil. Sao Paulo or no? You're from Rio. He's from Rio. So he wanted us to try. This is classic in their family, classic family recipe. Go ahead and try one.
Thank you. Yeah, so like, you're going to have that cheese in there that's going to up the protein content, even though the tapioca itself doesn't have that much.
Yeah, it's just, I love this stuff. It's so good. I'm sorry, I'm going to eat now. Show's over. Actually, that is kind of wrapping it up. So why don't you go ahead? I have one question for you. How, when it comes to swapping these out for like flour, wheat flour in recipes, is that an issue?
Yeah, so great question. Unless you're working with one of these bags that are labeled, 1-to-1 gluten-free flour blend swap. They've done the math for you. They've figured out, okay, a little bit of rice flour, a little bit of tapioca, etc. equals 1 cup of all-purpose flour. It's a 1-to-1 swap. But if you're not working with one of those blends, a general rule of thumb is that up to 25% of your recipe can be swapped out with any of these alternatives.
So what percent? 25%. 25%. Okay, so that's kind of something to remember.
Right. So like, let's say you're making a recipe that calls for all-purpose flour. Let's say you have, you're going to do 75% all-purpose, but maybe you want to enhance the nutrient density of the recipe. Do 25% buckwheat to get more protein, more fiber. You can do something like that.
So mix it around.
Yeah.
Play around with it a little bit.
So that's the general rule, but refer to the package for the specifics. Some recipes, of course, will do like 100% from that flour. You just got to kind of look at the ratios.
So there you go. There's a great rundown of all the different alternatives that are available to you. So let's end it this way, Holly. Tell us, give us your favorite. Like, what are the most nutritious from your opinion in terms of sugar, protein, carbs? Like, where do you fall in all this?
Yeah, so, doing research on this, I found that buckwheat is going to be one of the most nutritious options, along with the almond. So let's start like with best source of fiber, for example. So looking at best source of fiber, you're going to want to choose buckwheat or coconut.
Okay.
And the reason why this matters is because fiber is going to help with a more stable digestion of your carbohydrates. Okay, so that'll lead to less spiking. And I also saw a research paper published by the Journal of Cereal Science. They were looking at the nutritional properties of these different gluten-free flours, and they also found that buckwheat stood out as a good source of iron, magnesium, and folate.
Okay, there you go.
So some other good nutrients there as well.
What about protein?
Yeah, so in terms of protein, the whole grain wheat is still going to be one of your best sources of protein. When it comes to the alternatives, that's going to be almond and coconut.
Coconut is always up there.
Yeah. As well as almond. And then, speaking of almonds, if you're looking for the lowest carb option, almond's the winner there as well.
There you go. There is the takedown by Holly with all of these different alternatives. Great information, because I know more and more people are looking for this, but it is a little confusing with all these different choices. Great breakdown. Thanks for coming on, Holly. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And don't forget, we go live every Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern Time. Wherever you watch us, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, wherever, click interested, follow, so you always know when we're about to go live. And don't forget our sponsor, Life Extension, because you guys are such a great audience. They want to give you a nice discount. Go to lifeextension.com, shop around. When you check out, put in the discount code LELIVE, and you'll get 10% off $50 or more, plus free shipping and handling. While you're there, you can also check out a pretty cool article. Lifeextension.com/flour. We covered 8 alternatives here. That article covers
15.
15. So
Yeah.
there's many, many more. That's pretty surprising, actually. Go check that out. Again, don't forget Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern time. That's when we go live. I'm Dr. Mike. That's
Holli Ryan.
We'll see you next time.